much for being here. Really, it means a lot to me. I'm Lieutenant John Robinson. I'm an artillery officer in the United States Army. You guys might be thinking, what does a guy that works with cannons have anything to do with cybersecurity or education? Well, actually, I graduated from West Point in 2016 with a bachelor's in computer science. I focused mostly on cybersecurity, and shout out to Colonel Raymond, who's here, who taught me just about everything I know through the programs that he helped initiate there. So about me, I branched artillery and deployed about 9 months after I graduated from West Point. I came back and I went, oh man, I don't remember anything that had to do with my degree. So I started reaching out. I am stationed at Fort Hood, and I started reaching out down to Austin to see what was going on down there, because I heard there's a lot of tech. And Dr. Eaglin has a great program down there teaching high school kids about just technology using Raspberry Pi. And he invited me to come help teach for him, doing specifically cybersecurity mentoring. So that's a little bit about me. So the Vulnerable Web Server is actually a senior capstone project at West Point that I helped work on. I was actually unfortunately discontinued after I graduated. I thought that I would never see that project again, and here I am. So it turns out that there's a great need for this kind of software. So little disclaimer, I'm here representing me, not the Army. So anything that I say, don't think it's not the government, it's not the Army, it's my personal opinion on everything. So we're gonna talk a little bit about my biggest motivation on why I am teaching cybersecurity, and then the little problems that we found are pretty solvable with our solution that we found, being the Vulnerable Web Server, and then a live demo. So see, a lot of you guys have your laptops already. If you want to connect, we've got a separate Wi-Fi, because I thought that would be polite to not attack on the conference Wi-Fi. So if you want to look it up, it's just Vulnerable Web Server, and since it's a cybersecurity conference, the password is password, all lowercase. And so I'll give you guys the IP address that you'll connect to as part of the demo after I'm finished on it. All right, so the big problem. I've seen a lot of people throw out the small number of, anywhere from 1.8 to 3.5 million jobs that are out and that are going to be available in cybersecurity. They're not talking about the jobs that are going to be taken away due to advancements in technology and AI. So I did a little bit of research in preparation for this, and this is just kind of what I came up with. The numbers that I found are from the Bureau of Labor Statistics from the US government, so they're all specifically for the United States. So self-driving cars, right? We got 2.6 million truck drivers, 2 million other driving roles, taxi drivers, bus drivers, you've got your pizza delivery guys. So the unfortunate reality, or this 4.6 million jobs to one technology of self-driving cars that will probably be lost in about the next 20 years. And that's just the way that I thought about it, considering the fact you think about the internet 20 years ago and what the internet is today. I think if you take the technology today and use that same growth, I think 20 years from now, things are going to be a lot different. And key thing is, maybe the jobs are still there, but if they are there, it will be much more technology integrated role, and you will need to have a background in technology. So that's just self-driving cars. We've got a lot of other things to look at. We found there are currently 4.8 million retail salespersons out in the U.S. workforce, 3.6 million cashiers, 2.6 million waiters and waitresses, and 225,000 concierge and telemarketers. You guys might be thinking, you know what? It's great, telemarketers, I don't have to worry about them anymore. But I wish I would have brought the video, but right now the Google Assistant is, they're doing some crazy things with it. You think about the robots that you call and talk to whenever you talk to any company. Well, they're quickly working on AI that sounds natural, has natural linguistic pauses, and you don't even know that you're talking to a robot. The two examples that they did, one of them was making an appointment to a hair salon, and the other one was speaking to a Chinese restaurant to order some food. And yeah, you guys laugh, but they were able to, with the linguistic barrier, they were able to still understand what was being said and make a reservation to eat there. So that's a total of 15.8 million jobs between all of these technologies, and that's just using what I've seen today with self-driving cars. Everybody's seen the self-checkouts. Everybody's seen when you go to a restaurant, you can now sit there. There's a little kiosk. You can order whatever it is you want, and a waiter will come out, bring you your food, and afterwards you just swipe it. You can leave, and there's no interaction at all. So I'm not saying this to scare you guys. Like, the future isn't here yet, and the problem is the solution, and that's tech. That's why you guys are here, right? Is to teach more about technology to these kids that are not going to have some of these other jobs available to them. So not only is it going to be a gap of 3.5 million cybersecurity professionals, but it's going to be, there are no other jobs. You're gonna learn about tech, or that's it. All right, so this brings me to the vulnerable web server, which we focused on some of the smaller problems. Obviously, that's a pretty big problem. We focused on some things that were maybe a little more solvable. And so one thing that we saw is that tech companies are having difficulties hiring the right people. 65% skill shortage for jobs in technology, which average, depending on what job and who you look at and the experience, $70,000 and $170,000 a year. And the high schools that I've been to are not doing what they could to fill that gap because they're unwilling to invest in technology. And from the perspective of the administrators, from the teachers that I've talked to, the perspective of the administrators is everything is fine. The curriculum that we've had, it's all fine. I'm nice and comfortable in my job. If I invest in new education, then it goes poorly, then I just blew my job. But if I don't invest, then everything is fine and I don't have to take a chance. And so we realized that there has to be a low-cost alternative that the schools can integrate. Number 3 is high school students are uninformed about what jobs are available in tech and how much money they can make. As I said earlier, between 70 and I was reading an article the other day that said blockchain engineers, I know it's not cybersecurity, but blockchain engineers are making $150,000 and $170,000 a year. And so potential instructors who might teach, so say you go and you learn about technology and everything is great, and you want to go teach, but then you get $100,000 a year job offer from Google or Amazon, and before you even have the opportunity to go teach, they wave all this money in front of you, and right now there's no possible way for you to make that amount of money at the high school level. So what do we got? We got high schools that have computer labs. This is our assumption. We got high schools that have computer labs. And if not, I've heard some of the schools are even issuing the little Chromebooks out to students. And perhaps access to somebody who manages the network. We've got pretty great teachers who are willing to put in extra time and effort to maybe learn to go, if it's not too difficult for them, to take a program that's already been made and include it in their classroom, or maybe include it in an after-school program. Then we got students who would obviously greatly benefit from learning about the technology and the internet. So this is how we decided to solve those problems, is using the existing computer lab infrastructure to prevent unnecessary additional costs. So the way that we use it is, everybody familiar with virtual machines in here? We got maybe 10%. All right. So a virtual machine, for those of you that don't know, is you can actually run an operating system over the top of your operating system as software. And so what you can do then is, since you've got two operating systems running over the top of each other, well, the routers for the network that already exist between the computers can connect the virtual machines to each other without any additional wiring. It's just a little bit of code on the behalf of the network manager. And so that prevents the need for any additional costs, any additional hardware. If that's not an option for you, so one of the things that we kind of ran into an issue whenever we implemented this is the network engineers don't really like people messing with their network, especially when you tell them it's about hacking. So a way that we found that isn't free but it's cheap is using Raspberry Pis with the monitors and the keyboards and the mice that are already inside the computer lab, and then going out to buy like a $15 router that's been used, and it doesn't really matter, you know? So just go out and spend maybe $100 and you can set up a classroom inside of the computer lab in order to teach. So another answer that we have is lesson plans designed for non-technical instructors. So what we talked about earlier with the instructors that already have the degrees in computer science, cybersecurity, they're gone, and so maybe we just have people who got thrown a task of, you're the computer instructor now, figure it out. Which I'm sure never happens ever. And so we've got instructors who are maybe less technical, and so maybe we wanted to give them something that they could take and just read through it and be able to implement something that gives their students access to cybersecurity. Then hands-on lessons, make it more interactive for the students, and best of all, everything is absolutely free, open source, available online. So what we created was 5 lessons to teach in about 55 minutes. This was actually taught at West Point in one of the base computer science courses for students who are not computer science majors. So that kind of shows you just give it to any college student, even whether they've been studying computers or not, and they were able to understand and go through all the lessons. So what we came up with was an introduction to cybersecurity terms. You know, kind of what is a black hat or what is a white hat hacker? You know, what is Linux? What is cybersecurity? What is cyberspace? What do we mean by all these terms? And so that's the first lesson. Second lesson is, all right, what is Linux and what are ethics? And that's one thing that was a huge suggestion for us, is including an ethics lesson. That way, whenever you go and talk to your school administration, you'd be like, wait, we're teaching them how to hack, but we're going to tell them to do it the right way and for the right reasons. And so one way that we do that is kind of comparing, you know, in cybersecurity, most of the vulnerabilities are due to poor coding, and so maybe that poor coding is equivalent to somebody leaving their door unlocked at their house. And so you can kind of reach out to the students and say, hey, you know, even if you knew somebody left their door unlocked to their house, you wouldn't just walk in and take all of their things. That's wrong. Well, just like it's wrong to walk into somebody's house and take all of their things, it's not okay to use these to break in and steal everybody's information on the computer. It's the same thing. And so you can kind of see how that kind of ethics lesson is very useful, especially when you're talking to the concerns of parents that are, why are you teaching my kids how to hack? Which also never happens. And then we also talk to them a little bit about Linux. In the booklet that they have, it's you learn command line side by side with the GUI. So as you're traversing directories, we show them, okay, CD to my documents, and then click on my documents on the left, and you're seeing the same files. So the third lesson, we've got cross-site script. The vulnerabilities, the attacks that we teach are cross-site scripting, remote file inclusion, and SQL injection. Anybody familiar with any of those attacks? Just so I know how deep to go in the demo. All right, about half. All right, so what vulnerable web server is it? It's not the key to making high school students just super awesome at cybersecurity. That's not the goal. The goal is to introduce them to 3 different attacks, introduce them to Linux, and we're not even going that deep into the attacks. Like, what they learn will be essentially useless out into the real world. Hopefully by now, all of these vulnerabilities have been solved, but as we all know, that's not always the case. So you're not going to be able to hack into Google and steal all their money using what we are teaching to them. It's not the most complicated or advanced cybersecurity curriculum out there. You know, this was developed by college students that saw a problem and tried to come up with a cheap or free solution that anybody can take to their high schools without reaching out to the government for additional funds to try to build it. And then third, it's not perfect, but I'm working on it. So like I said a second ago, it's for non-technical teachers who are instructing non-technical students about the basics of a very complex topic. So best case scenario, you get the students involved and you get them interested and they are able to go out and do some research on their own to learn more about cybersecurity, learn more about programming. Worst case scenario is that the students are more informed about cybersecurity, right? So the way that I see it is, in the worst case, these students are going to go on to be entrepreneurs, or they're going to work for somebody, right? And what you can do then is you can go up and have that conversation. Every business has a website now and be like, hey, you know, I remember this thing I did in high school about SQL injections. How does your website that you built for me, how does it defend against that? And so the worst case scenario is you start a conversation. But John, you guys say, isn't it wrong to teach high school students about cybersecurity and how to hack? And I say, no, because we have done our best to mitigate the risk by teaching about ethics. It's on a sandbox network, so the attacks are not on the school infrastructure. You're not attacking the school. You're not attacking the internet. It's all confined within a learning space. And then once again, the kids aren't out there learning the most advanced 21st century hacks. This is stuff that's been around since the 80s and 90s. All right, so at this time, looks like we've got about 20 minutes. We can do the demonstration. Are there any questions? Yes?
You talked about like setting up a router with the Raspberry Pis. Would that be connected to the school network?
No. So the way that it works is you've got an instructor computer that's running a virtual machine with, it's actually running on Ubuntu. And that virtual machine has a server on it. And so all of the students will be connecting to one laptop with a virtual machine. And it's not connected to the internet at all.
Okay, cool. So it'd just be like in that little broadcast domain, right? Because I have a bunch of Cisco routers in my class. I can just hook them up to that and they're good.
Yeah, exactly. And so you guys will actually see that as part of the demonstration. You guys are all connected to the learning environment. Good job. And then I'll give you guys, you got the IP address right there, so you can go ahead and go either on your phone or on your laptop, head to that IP address through just your web browser, and on the menu page, they actually have a download to the instructor materials. And so you guys can download, and it's actually got the download link for where you can find all of the lesson plans, and it'll go step by step through every single one of the attacks. Are there any more questions? All right. Is everybody connected to the Wi-Fi that wants to be connected? Do we need to leave this up anymore? We got one over here. so I got a little side-by-side over here. You've got the lesson plan on the left, and you've got the website, what you guys will see on the right. What we've done with the students before is we will just print out just that day's lesson, and whenever, it comes with PowerPoint slides of things that you can teach with embedded videos, and then after the videos are done, after your PowerPoint slide is complete, then you pass out the lesson plan of how to do the attacks. And like I said, it doesn't get real technical, but they can step through and say, okay, so for SQL injection, we can see this is supposed to, you put in a user ID number, and it will come back with whoever's ID that is. So in this case, number 4 belongs to Stephen Lane. And so what you can do, right, is you can conduct some recon. It's one of the words that they learned during the first lesson, and maybe we just put in an apostrophe and see what happens. Oh no, we got an error. All right, so now you see that it's running a MySQL server, and you know that it's vulnerable because it threw the error whenever you put in an apostrophe. Oh, just for all of you guys that are experts at this, please don't kill me. Please don't kill my computer. I appreciate it. Because if your question is it vulnerable to this? The answer is yes. All right, so we can go one more step and say, all right, or 1 equals 1. For those of you that aren't familiar with SQL, it's the structured query language. So imagine taking an Excel spreadsheet and stacking them on top of each other, and then having a programming language that can extract the data out, whatever you want, as long as you write it the correct way. And so what SQL injection is it's a code injection attack where, let's see, I don't know, can you guys see this right here, this line? In the back, yeah? So what it's saying is this is the SQL code that is receiving the information. And so it's saying, select the first and last name from a table users where the ID equals, and it's just taking whatever you type in here and putting it directly into the function. And so what you can do is when you put in or, all right, so select first and last name where user ID equals nothing or 1 equals 1. So that remains true for every single person. So you just dumped the entire database of first and last names. Well, that's pretty neat. What else can you do? Well, maybe we want to know what the server is running on. Well, can you do that in SQL? It turns out that you can. And so you find out it's running Ubuntu 14. I don't know if you guys can see this or if any of you guys want to work along the side, you're more than welcome to. But you guys can see how this kind of builds onto it. We're not teaching them, all right, this is an entire semester on SQL and you're going to be an expert of how to conduct SQL injection attacks. It's not the goal. The goal is to show that at the end of it, let me see, this SQL server has a lot of interesting things on it. One of them being emails and credit card numbers. And so you can see whenever it comes up here, you've got a bunch of randomly generated email addresses, which in real life this would be actual email addresses and actual credit card numbers that belong to this website. And so then you can kind of talk to your students and say, hey, these aren't real credit card numbers, but can you understand where this is going? And I think for the answer for most high school students is yes. They understand at that point how important keeping your credit card number secure is. So I've got 10 minutes left. I went through the demo a lot faster than I expected to. Are there any questions about? We've done this maybe 5 to 10 times, teaching different students from polytechnical schools to. You got a question?
Yeah, I was just wondering, is this normal web server? I can't remember what it is. Is that the SourceForge link that you provided?
Yes.
Okay.
Yep. So you can actually download the OVA file from SourceForge. It's all, so we've got the instructor booklet, and then there are individual booklets for the students, and then the PowerPoint slides are on the SourceForge page as well.
Could you run concurrently, like say you have VM workstation, could you run 2 VMs on the same PC if you've got the right resources for this?
Yes, yeah, you absolutely can. So that was actually, the capstone project was actually a 2-year capstone project. They ended it after our year. And that's actually how it was originally designed, is that you would have a Kali VM on the left side, and you would have the Ubuntu VM on the right side, and the students would just switch back and forth. And the reason that we went away from that model is that you're already throwing so much new stuff at them. We wanted them to be able to come into a computer lab, understand, like, this is my computer, this is my Raspberry Pi, this is my Kali machine, because we were running Kali over Windows, and say, okay, you open it up and it boots straight into Kali. And then from there, you don't have to say, oh, well, I guess you don't have to understand how the server-client model works at that point. You just, hey, we've got this website, they've all seen websites before, you've got this computer that has all sorts of cool tools on it, like Kali, and they just go to it instead of having the complexity of switching back and forth. And so that you can definitely do that. And there are benefits to doing that as well, because instead of just saying, hey, poor coding practices lead to these vulnerabilities, you can show them on the Ubuntu machine exactly what lines of code that you can change to make sure that it's secure. It just depends on how advanced your students are and how well they're able to process the information. Like I said, this was supposed to be marketed towards non-technical savvy, as far as cybersecurity and programming, non-tech savvy students. Yes?
The beginning lessons, you talk about Linux.
Yes.
How deep do you go into that, and what version or flavor of Linux are you focused on?
So if you look through the instructor curriculum, you can see that it's based off of Kali Linux. Like I said earlier, that's the kind of, we want to say, oh, you're a super elite hacker now, and you're running the coolest tools of all time. And so yeah, it's based off of Kali, and we don't go very deep into it. It's just, changing directories, making directories, deleting files, very, very basic level stuff. Anybody have a box on my computer yet? Nobody? I'm surprised. All right, are there any other questions?
Can you show the remote file inclusion?
I could. Might take me a second. I didn't include that as part of the demo. Actually, I'd have to spin up another VM. Yeah, I think it's going to take too long, sorry. Yeah, so the remote file inclusion actually includes a way for the kids to pop a terminal for the destination machine. So they could actually be able to show, if you bring it up on a display, you'd be able to show them, all right, now delete this file, and then you refresh your screen over here, and it would be gone. So it shows that, hey, this is really how things work. Are there any more questions? I think I'm about out of time. All right, that's all I've got. Thank you guys so much for coming and listening. I hope you found it useful.